I want to share an email that I received from one of my YouTube subscribers. It's an email that struck a chord, not just because it was critical, at least I think it was critical, but because it offered a perspective that I think is worth exploring, especially for those of us considering retirement in a place like Ecuador or any foreign country for that matter. The email essentially warns me, as a foreigner, to tread carefully on how I present my experiences, how I interact with the local culture, and engage with the expat community. While its tone might feel a bit harsh, there's a deeper message here about living abroad responsibly and respectfully. I want to unpack that message with you today and explore what we as potential expats can learn from it. I'm going to actually read the email to you. It's very short. I'll do the best I can because it's not written the way I would have written it, but here we go. Don, apparently this guy had heard from a previous podcast or one of my YouTube videos that I've often considered the possibility of going to Cotacachi, okay, as opposed to living in Manta. So here's his email. Don, if you move to Cotacachi, for the love of God, please stop making these videos. Some of us are working so hard to integrate and change the stereotype of Gringolandia. You have no clue, period. The culture, the community is so different to what you know. It is alien to everything you know, or if you stay in the bubble, you will just experience more of the same. I know that didn't make a lot of sense, but it is what it is, okay? I'll explain further on in the episode here. You'd be tempted to stay in the gringo bubble and perpetuate the gringo stereotype. Gringos here are merely tolerated, not liked. A handful are accepted. Just be aware. Nobody will tell you that. Only one person I know would say that to you. They are noisy, arrogant, complaining, tiny minority, and overall meaningless and irrelevant. Talking about gringos here. Come, but just live your life. Sent with only best intentions. And then he signed off. I'm not going to tell you the name of the person that wrote this out of respect for him, so we'll just keep that anonymous. So here's my thoughts, okay? The email starts with a bold plea. For the love of God, please stop making these videos. That grabbed my attention, to say the least, just right off the bat. The writer goes on to express concerns about how videos like mine might perpetuate stereotypes about foreigners living in Ecuador, specifically in a town like Cotacachi. He argues that expatriates, referred to as gringos, are often seen as noisy, arrogant, and out of touch with the local culture. He emphasizes the importance of stepping out of the gringo bubble, integrating into the local community, and understanding the vastly different cultural dynamics. His primary point? Come to live, not to dominate or isolate. He says the gringos are often seen as noisy, arrogant, and out of touch with the local culture. I don't know if I agree with that at all. If anything, I would say that about some of the locals here. But hell, you have that in any country you go to. This email, while critical, speaks to a broader issue that many of us got to face, once we decide to live abroad. The challenge of integration. It's easy to fall into the trap of staying, within a familiar expat community because it feels safe and comfortable, like I do here in Manta. However, the downside is that it can create a cultural divide, reinforcing stereotypes about foreigners being indifferent to the local way of life. For retirees looking to make a fresh start in a foreign country, the stakes are higher. We're not just moving for a short-term adventure. Well, some of us are. We're looking for a place to call home, right? Building trust and mutual respect with locals becomes crucial, not just for our own fulfillment, but for the sustainability of these expat communities that we live in. So what are the lessons for retirees that want to move abroad? I came up with four items, okay? Understanding local perceptions, that's number one. Number two, stepping out of the bubble. Number three, respect cultural differences. And number four, be mindful of how you represent your experience. So let me elaborate, okay? Understanding the local perceptions. One of the key takeaways to this email is that we as foreigners need to be aware of how we are perceived. I've often heard many people say that perception is reality. In some cases, expats may be seen as bringing wealth and opportunity to an area, but in others, we might be viewed as disruptive or entitled. Whether these perceptions are fair or not, it's important to recognize that they exist and to act in ways that challenge negative stereotypes. In regards to stepping out of the bubble, staying in an expat bubble may be tempting. And I can attest to that. I can certainly tell you that I've definitely been guilty of staying in the bubble and not stepping out of it. It's comforting to connect with people who share their language and cultural background, for sure. I agree with that, but you can't do that if you're stuck in your bubble. Doing so limits your experience, and you can isolate, and it can isolate you from the local culture. Learning the language, participating in community events, and supporting local businesses are small steps. They can make a big difference. So keep that in mind, in regards to stepping out of the bubble. Number three, I said respect cultural differences. As the email suggested, the culture in Ecuador or anywhere else abroad, I guess, will be different from what we're used to. That's not a problem to solve. It's a reality to embrace. I tell people that all the time. Take the time to understand local customs, values, and traditions. It can help you connect with your new community in meaningful ways. The subscriber that wrote this email was concerned about how videos like mine might reinforce stereotypes about gringos. While I see my content as a way to share my personal experiences, it's a valid reminder to consider how we represent our lives abroad, especially on public forums like YouTube and Facebook and so forth, Instagram, X. It's all about finding a balance, being honest without perpetuating negative perceptions. One part of this guy's email that stands out is the line sent with only best intentions. Despite its critical tone, the writer claims his goal is to help, and I believe him. His frustration seems rooted in a desire to create a better relationship, I guess, between expats and the locals to ensure that those of us who move abroad contribute positively to the communities we join. That makes sense, don't you think? This touches on an important point. Living abroad isn't just about what we can gain, it's about what we can give. Whether it's respecting cultural norms, supporting local initiatives, or simply being good neighbors, we have a responsibility to add value to our new communities, and I think you would probably agree with that. So I'll respond to the guy. When I first read the email, I wasn't sure how to respond without sounding defensive or dismissive. Here's what I came up with. Dear Anonymous, thank you for taking the time to share your thoughts. I appreciate your honesty and the insight into how gringos are perceived in Cotacachi. It's clear you are passionate about fostering good relationships between expats and the local community, and I respect that. My intention has always been to share my personal experiences in a way that is thoughtful and authentic. If I ever decide to make Cotacachi my home, I will keep your advice in mind and do my best to integrate respectfully and embrace the local culture. Thanks again for reaching out with your best intentions. Best regards, Don. That's what I'm going to send to the guy. It acknowledges their concerns, his concerns, and I think I'm showing respect for his perspective and reaffirms my commitment to living responsibly. So this email on the broader topic of expat integration is a reminder that moving abroad is about more than just finding a beautiful place to retire. It's about building a new life that respects and embraces the community you're joining. So for those of you considering a move to Ecuador or elsewhere, I encourage you to think about what kind of expat you want to be. Are you looking to simply recreate the comforts of home in a new location? Or are you ready to immerse yourself in a different culture to learn and grow in ways you never imagined? At the end of the day, the choice is ours, right? Let's make it a good one, not just for ourselves, but for the communities that welcome us.